welcome everybody to episode 89 of Door Tunes. So this week, we've got a really special guest as always, um, to talk to you about lots of different things. Um, I'll let them introduce themselves.
Hi, my name is Doyle W Donehoo, a composer for media, and so far away. I'm sure you're anxious to know about the Aliens game. So
Yes, absolutely. That's the newest release, Dark Descent.
right, correct.
Yeah. And how did you come about that? How did that come about for you?
Well, actually, Warhammer, a very English sort of thing,
Mhm.
is led indirectly to it. I've done a lot of games for Warhammer,
Yeah.
for Games Workshop in the Warhammer universe, and one of the companies I worked with was Tindalos, and Tindalos. I did some games for them. Battlefleet Gothic being the main thing. There are two titles from them that I scored, and they did a proposal to Disney 20th Century Fox for an alien space game,
Mhm.
and fairly early on, I guess, as they got the approval for it, they brought me in on it. Uh, I'm a good fit, yeah, someone they're used to working with,
Yeah.
and yeah, it was kind of funny too. They were definitely impressed with them. I wouldn't say impressed with themselves, but impressed that they got this thing with 20th Century Fox and Disney. So, which is an impressive thing.
Mhm.
And for me, uh, they were thinking that I might have been. I think they were thinking I might have been a little intimidated by the whole thing, but no, I was actually uh, quite happy that I got this, and really looking forward to it, because I've studied the alien scores, almost
Mhm.
since the very beginning. I mean, I might as well get into this sort of thing here. I uh, I went to when Alien first came out. I went to Alien and saw it about 10 or 15 times in a movie theater, and I started collecting things. I got the original program, and
Oh,
bought the
wow.
magazines, and
Mhm.
for fantastic films, and got to posters and stuff for Alien,
Wow.
and more magazines, and the book of Alien, which is all the artwork and everything, because it's very artwork centric. And at the time I
Yeah.
saw it, I was still thinking about graphic arts, and
Mhm.
being very involved with graphic arts, because I did that all my life as well as music. And so I was very interested in it because it was such an artistic movie. They had H.R. Giger doing the alien stuff, and the Frenchman, Mobius, doing a lot of the NASA, well, not the NASA stuff, but the space suits and some of the other
Yeah.
designs things, and some of the alien stuff. And there was another artist, I can't think of his name right away, but he was an LA artist, and he did a lot of the NASA interiors, and they were all very interesting to me, just from an artwork standpoint. But
Mhm.
also, I was very interested in the movies too, like the Alien picture book there.
So
And
you call
so
yourself a bit of a fan?
so I was, a regular fanboy, you might say. And of course, when the music came out as a score, I bought it as a record, and I have it somewhere in my collection. I haven't been
Oh,
able to
wow.
find it, but I've collected all their, all the Alien scores, and the
Mhm.
rescores, and the remasters, and everything else, for them. And
That's
it came
amazing.
in useful anyway, because a lot of you know I think Warhammer, as the Tyranids, if you're familiar with them at all, I think they were influenced by the aliens, for their Tyranid race. And
Yeah.
so there's a lot of horror that I had to do for them. People have been characterizing, Alien as a horror movie, but I'd say it's kind of horror action,
Mhm.
sort of thing. But it doesn't matter. I mean, I was really into the scores as well. And I wore out the grooves on the records, I think, and ripped I ripped the CDs a lot so I could study them in detail and see how it was put together. And that was well before I ever got the job or anything. So, and then with Warhammer, they actually referenced the work of the work in Aliens for their game, for certain aspects like the Tyranids. They wanted me to do things for that sort of thing. So I had some experience doing that as well, working with with this concept, the alien sort of approach to music for Tyranids a bit, but this was unaltered, unfrettered alien, alien, and aliens music when I took on this job from Tindalos and Disney to do the score. So
Mhm.
I was less surprised and more you know really pleased that I got a chance to do this thing, which I've been studying for a long time. And so I was, and I was quite comfortable in that environment. So,
Mm.
yeah, it was a great thing to do, So they thought maybe it was going to be a little overwhelmed, but I was more overjoyed. So,
Oh, wow. And then, how did you find working on the score in comparison to kind of other stuff that you've done, like the Warhammer stuff? Was it any
um,
different? Did you have to
well, yeah,
approach
it's a
it
lot.
differently?
Warhammer is a lot of action-based things. I mean, I did a lot of art, real-time strategy, yeah, and I prefer that too because, the first-person shooter kind of stuff, yeah, it's just a lot of continuous, non-stop action, and you have to keep the tempo up all the time, and it's all actions kind of thing. Where when you're doing first-person, no, sorry, when you're doing RTS games, it's a little more nuanced. It's not shoot bang bang all the time, although it can get to that point in a game. But and Aliens is kind of the way Aliens games, like the one I work like Dark Descent, is that it really is more nuanced. I mean, it's not just shooting. It's a lot of sneaking around, and you know, you know, getting looking out for problems, seeing something approaching on the scanners, kind of thing, and having quick encounters, and then there's discovery and storytelling because there is a story there in the game about like for the colonists or the people on the ship, or in the industrial environments, they have a story to tell, and you're discovering their story as you go. So there's more storytelling too, which I like. But so you have a lot of, it's more like a movie, there's a spectrum of moods that you have to cover, and I like that. I like that aspect of doing the game because I doesn't have to just concentrate on sheer balls to the wall action music all the time.
And I mean, Aliens, the IP is huge. It's been around as long as I have, which is only about 20 years. Do you not feel any pressure in that respect?
Well, I don't know. I think having been in the game industries for since about 2000, I've had time to adjust. So, and yeah, this was certainly an opportunity. But I always thought that working for with the Warhammer thing was almost equally prestigious. It's a very well beloved IP, and
Mm.
there's games and soon to maybe to be movies, and there's definitely the tabletop stuff. And I mean, I've heard from fans, ever since I'd done Dawn of War 2, I regularly get fan mail and people reference each other. The soundtracks are still out there. I mean, it's on triple vinyl, for example, and double CD just
Mhm.
for Dawn of War 2. Plus, many of the other scores are also out there. So, no, like I say, I didn't really get to the intimidation part of it. I mean, it's definitely a little more eye-opening, like a splash of water to the face in the morning. So yeah, well, yeah, so yeah, this is cool. Yeah, I can
Yeah.
do this. But
Well,
I thought it was more of a fun thing to do, an opportunity. I really liked it. I really looked forward to doing it, and I had a good time doing it.
good.
You know.
And how long were you working on it?
Um, I think we had about 2 years on it. I mean, I came in pretty early, and they had a really brilliant presentation that they had. It was very good, and although they really surprised me in how when they released the game and how good it was. I mean, it really the early stuff that I worked on looks nothing like the final version of the game. The final version of the game looks spectacular. So
Yeah, it really does.
Yeah,
Really, really
and
does.
it's a very pretty game. And so yeah, so I had a lot of stuff, some not a lot of stuff, but some stuff to work with. Of course, whenever I'm working with a client, I I ask for artwork and any kind of in-game stuff that they have, any stories or the write-ups of the plots or anything in it. And that all that really helps me get into the mood and find direction for the game, because we definitely had direction for various parts of the game, because like I say, it wasn't all bang bang shoot shoot. It was like I said, we had parts where they were discovering things and they were unraveling a story that was the background story as they progressed through their travails. They're always on the of course the idea of them always being on the edge of being dead, if they don't do everything right. But anyway, back to the point. Yeah, I was more. Yeah, it was a little bit. Wow, well, aliens. Yeah, that's great.
Mm.
I mean, I really had fun telling my assistant. My assistant is Nicola,
Mhm.
and he lives in Serbia,
Oh,
and he was wondering what the next game was. What's the next game? Did I sent him? I said, "This is the next game." And I showed him a picture of this really beautiful picture of this slavering aliens. This is our next one. So I think he was the one most excited and surprised by the whole thing, and I kind of vicariously lived through him, because he got pretty excited about this opportunity, and I thought, yeah, well, this is going to be fun, and it was.
and it's out now, and it's getting really good reviews. People seem to be really, really enjoying it. You know, and how just something that you mentioned earlier. You mentioned about the previous games that you worked on. Some are on vinyl and stuff. And how do you find that? Because that must be nice to physically have something in your hands and kind of go, I did that.
Yeah, yeah, I have that. What just we said, I have it. But yeah, that's what this is, and
Wow.
it's I got two here, unfortunately. So yeah, two, and it's like I said, it's triple vinyl for
Yeah,
everything.
that's
So
that's beautiful.
yeah, and a lot of great artwork and everything, as you can see, and
Yeah,
everything
yeah,
on
yeah.
it. Yeah, so
Wow.
so definitely a very nice thing to have,
Yeah.
and
Oh, I know. I
and
actually I collect video game vinyl myself, and oh yeah, that's gorgeous.
yeah, and we're in the process. We're in the process of releasing the Alien score,
Oh wow.
Aliens Dark Descent score.
Yeah,
So I think that'll be coming up pretty soon,
that would be
and
awesome.
yeah, and I think fans will really like it, because
Mm.
let me get into something here.
Mhm.
I mean, have you ever seen had a favorite movie
Mhm.
where you really impressed by, you loved the music, you loved everything about it and everything, and then
Yeah.
they do a sequel and you're really disappointed because they didn't follow up on the music, they didn't follow up on the characters and everything. They just, it wasn't the same, anything near. I mean, it could have been somewhat near to the first
Mm.
experience, but it just wasn't the same thing.
Mhm.
Like um, what is that name of the Riddick series?
Oh yeah, the Chronicles of Riddick.
Kind of
Yeah.
rhythm. The first movie, something dark, Black Dark, or
Pitch
what I
Black.
forgot.
Pitch
Pitch
Black.
Black. That's right.
Yeah.
And Pitch Black was, awesome movie, great
Mhm.
plot, great characters and everything. But then the sequels were nothing like the the
No,
first one.
yeah, weirdly on that, I loved Pitch Black. I loved the
I
second
loved it.
movie, but the other one was just absolute garbage.
Yeah, it's just
I
so I didn't want to be that person who was responsible for not giving the
yeah.
the viewers and the game players that experience. And I wanted to be as true as possible to the the feelings and the emotions and the music as the first and that we saw in the first three movies. I wanted it to be to have the movie to be as the music as close to that as possible, so that people are immersed in that same environment. And I think the developers they believe the same thing, because the I think they were staying very true to the environments. I mean, of course, there's added twists. We both added some our own special,
Yeah.
personalities to it and everything. So there was extra things in there and the games that wasn't in the other games before, and there was some things in the music that wasn't in the original music, but it was still profoundly an aliens experience, and that's what I was really wanted to do. And I think the developers were on the same page with that. That's what they wanted to do too. They wanted almost an homage to the originals, you know, and immerse people in that environment and give them a satisfying experience and not disappoint them, especially not disappoint them.
Yeah, and you can definitely see there's a lot of love that's been put into the production of that game. Absolutely, both from yourself and from the team that built the game. Yeah, it's just incredible. It looks incredible. It sounds incredible. You know, so yeah,
Well,
fantastic.
that's where we're shooting for. I mean, we want it to be an immersive experience and get you in that back in that environment, and just because I'm not other games. There's been other games and stuff, but and they're okay, and I played some of them. But
Yeah,
this was our opportunity to really deliver
yeah,
something profoundly alien, and that had the feel of it, the touch and feel of the aliens kind of environment, and be true to the aliens IP. And I think that's what we succeeded in doing that.
yeah, definitely. I mean, did you play Alien Isolation?
No, not really. I've seen gameplay, and I've listened to the
Phenomenal.
scores quite a bit. You know,
Yeah.
and I was interested in the scores, and um, also there was another Alien games just before mine. Austin
Yeah.
Wintry did that, so I listened to some of that music. As a matter of fact, I told Austin Wintry so I didn't listen to your score before doing my Alien games because I just want to be influenced. But we were both influenced by the same composers. But I think he's a huge Goldenthal fan, and whereas I'm more of the Jerry Goldsmith, James Horner kind of fan.
Okay.
Uh, so. So you know, there was that. So I'll probably go now that the game has been done. I should probably get his score. I'm not sure if it's available yet. I think they're still having. I think they finally did get it released only recently. I'm not
I think
sure.
I'm fairly certain I listened to it on Spotify recently. Um, yeah, definitely.
Yeah,
I'm not sure
yeah.
about
I'll
like the
listen.
final release.
Yeah, I will listen to it then because, but like I say, and it's a true thing. I mean, you don't want to be influenced by something, you know, when you by somebody else's music. I mean, you want it to, you know, remain original to yourself, especially if you want to remain influenced by the originals, like, you know,
Yeah,
Jerry Goldsmith and James Horner and Elliot Goldenthal and John Frizzle, and, you know,
yeah,
those composers who worked on the Alien franchise. You know, that's where my influence is
yeah.
coming from.
It's funny you should say that because I was having a conversation literally a couple of days ago, with somebody on Twitter saying, another composer saying, I love this piece of music, which was the theme tune for Uncharted Drake's Deception. And they were like, it's such a great song, but it needs to not be in my head because I'm composing today and all I can do is do it in that style. Like it needs to just go away. So I totally get you with that.
Yeah, well, I call it song bomb. You know,
Mhm.
a song bomb is when someone hums a song or something in your presence, and then it gets stuck in your brain, and you're listening to it like for the next 4 hours. Some people call it earworm too, but
Yeah, yeah, yeah.
I always call it song
Bomb.
bomb. Yeah, the latest song bomb from the internet is this guy who you might have seen it. It's called Planet of the Bass, and
No,
it's kind of a parody of 90s techno music
I
with
need to
a kind
find
of
this.
a it's kind of with a kind of an East German slant to it. I mean, East European slant to it,
Mhm.
where they're singing in English, but it's not quite English. You know, like
Yes, yeah, yeah,
like one of the lyrics is when the music is glad,
yeah.
no reason to be sad, or something like that. And it's just kind of off and everything. It's
Yeah.
perfect, most perfect, and it just sticks to your brain and doesn't go away. So yeah, look that up at Planet of the Bass.
I will definitely do. So I do have a question, another question for you, and it's are there any other scores that you see out there that like for other games, doesn't have to be sci-fi or anything like that, or alien based, that in the last kind of 10, 15 years you've gone, wow, that is phenomenal.
I mean, a game. Sorry, but a little bit. The audio is kind of
Sorry.
wavery, and
Yeah.
you'll have to speak a little slower so that this waveriness doesn't cause it
Yeah.
just kind of comes in and out,
Huh.
so say it slowly, or something in the last 10 years of.
Like a score in the last 10, 15 years that for a game that you've gone like, wow, that really
I mean,
impressed you.
besides mine. uh,
Besides yours, yeah.
but I don't know.
Or
I don't listen
someone.
to. I just don't listen to a lot of game scores.
Yeah.
And although I've heard pieces of them, and
Yeah.
uh, like I go to the Gang Awards, that Game Audio
Yeah.
Network Guild Awards, and so I get to hear a lot of that stuff, and I'm really impressed. I think one of my favorite composers among
Mm.
game composers is Gordy Hab.
Mhm.
He's like the John Williams of video games,
Oh, wow.
and and he's a authentic pencil and paper composer.
Oh, wow.
He first and foremost does everything on paper and everything, but he knows how to do all the tech too. All the
Mhm.
computer stuff, but he writes on paper, and I find that pretty impressive.
Yeah.
And it's very complex, convoluted, classically influenced music. So
Yeah.
I really like what Gordy does, and and a lot of guys like I've heard some stuff from Austin Wintory and Jason Graves. I think probably one of my favorite scores, come to think of it, in video games was Jason Graves when he did, I think it's Dead Space
Mm.
or something like that. Yeah.
Yeah.
And I have
Mhm.
that score, and I listened to that one a lot. I really enjoyed that one. I thought he
Yeah.
did a really phenomenal job on that particular score,
Yeah.
especially since he did kind of like a small ensemble sort of approach to things. And so it was
Mhm.
really, and he did it live too. And so, but I thought that was a really good thing. I'd be proud if I was him. I'd be proud to have done that. I said that was a good one. So, and I think probably one of the first uh, music scores for games that I really was impressed with is probably for Halo. Uh,
Yeah.
what Marty did in
Yeah.
Halo, and I mean that became sort of super iconic as well.
Yes. It's
you
really
know,
good.
yeah,
Um,
and so yeah, as I start thinking about it, I start dredging up things that I know. I listen to a lot of movie scores, though. I buy a
yeah.
lot of movie scores. I got a wall full of CDs from movies, and which I study, and
Yeah.
because I pick up new techniques and called orchestral devices. This is what we call them.
Mhm.
Uh, that that people come up with. It's not. It's different than melodic devices or things like that, because orchestral devices is just. I knew different combinations of orchestral instruments that comes up with kind of a different approach to things, and they're very useful to learn all these things. They say something like for a Hollywood composer has to know like 1,000 orchestral devices, you know, and to be really good. And some of these guys, you can tell they they probably know those 1,000 orchestral devices. They really know how to do things
Yeah.
like Howard and Williams, obviously, and
Yeah.
others. So
So would you be
yes, go ahead.
would you be similar to? I've spoken to a lot of composers, and a lot of composers when they're working on a new piece or a new um, game, they will tend to maybe buy something for themselves, like a new instrument, because they need it.
Well, we always have the I wants,
Mhm.
you get inflicted by the I wants, but yeah, my toys are new instruments, but they're mostly virtual instruments.
Okay.
Occasionally, I'll buy I think the last physical instrument I bought was a Fender Jazz Bass, black. If you've seen in my promo shots, I feature that one in there because I rather like it. And also, I was a big Rickenbacker fan for a long time. A lot of the rock and music that I followed early on was English based. Yes, and Genesis,
Okay.
probably bands you've never heard of that were European, like Le Orme or Grabschnitt or Triumvirate. You might have heard of Triumvirate. They were kind of like the European version of ELP.
Okay.
ELP I was really hugely into for a time. I mean, that's I don't know if you like to hear a story.
Of
When
course.
I was living in Europe, I lived in Berlin for a couple of years,
Mm.
and ELP came around, and um, they had this. They were touring this album called Tarkus, and there's this the first song, Tarkus, starts out, and they're playing live and everything, and they were like the first band I heard that had a stereo PA system, a stereo sound system, because in those days mostly it was monophonic. The sound, they figured it, monophonic's good enough for everybody. But the ELP had a stereo system. So did Genesis, by the same way. They were like the best stereo system ever for their sound system. But ELP had a very loud, very super loud stereo system. But anyway, the song starts out with this, with a drum space and organ, and it's just kind of doing this arpeggio at the beginning, and it's kind of monophonic sounding and everything. And then Keith Emerson reached over to this massive Moog synthesizer and hit a note, and suddenly I was surrounded by this sound of this Moog. It was life-changing. Said, that's when I said, this is what I want to do.
Yeah.
So since it had a very profound effect on me. I mean, I built them at one time, from kits and things, and when I couldn't afford them, and I wrote my own. I was a software engineer for some years. I wrote my own music software, and but yeah, that whole the synthesizers really started for me. I was in bands and stuff, played a lot of metal and stuff, and prog rock and everything. And then when synths came along, I started adding that element into things, and I went off on my own and actually recorded a kind of a prog rock album, which I've never released, and with my own software and everything. And then software caught up and everything, and suddenly the computers got more powerful. I was able to starting to be able to make all the sounds I wanted to make, like around 2000, because the computer power was powerful enough to drive these sample-based instruments, and not just die, even though it did die at times. I mean, I was always pushing the hairy edge of technology in the early days. So I'd do something, save, do something, save, do something, save, and do something, crash, and reload, and then go back and try to reproduce it, save. So yeah, but now things are a lot more stable and a lot more powerful, and and the audio possibilities these days are just endless. And I have like something like 4 terabytes of instruments, virtual instruments, and some physical ones. So there's no excuse. And it's kind of a turning point too, because because of virtual instruments, it really leveled the playing field. I mean, it used to be that a crappy Hollywood composer could get along because he had hundreds of just outstanding musical instrumentalists, an orchestra, who were used to playing classical music and doing TV music or movie music is trivial to them, after doing all this, being classically oriented in their careers and everything. So they were making them look good. They were making the composers look good. These mediocre composers look good. But now everyone can sound good if they have the talent to. I mean, it can sound good, but it's still. There was a saying in technology when I was an engineer, and that was garbage in, garbage out. And it's still true today. You may have the best instruments in the world, but the competition is such now that garbage in, garbage out. You're not gonna stand out unless you do something that allows you to stand out and be a little more special than all the other guys who just threw a lot of money at their studio and made a lot of funny sounds and everything. And that doesn't cut it anymore. You have to, at the level of the playing field, now talent actually matters. The talent of the composer actually matters. You can't just rely on the talent of the people in the orchestra.
So that is basically kind of come to the end of the show. We've run out of time. I just wanted to say a massive thank you and congratulations with the new game, the Aliens, and anything. Obviously, I know NDAs, so people can't talk about things. Is there anything else that's coming up for the future?
It's probably I don't know. I'm talking. There are some things going on, but like I say, I wouldn't talk about them because it's counterproductive. So,
no, exactly.
but right now I'm just sort of enjoying some time off after several years now, just working constantly, and I'm looking forward to a little vacation time before things start up again. And I'm sure they will start up again. It always happens. So that now, in the meantime, I'm upgrading my studio, and I had the I-wants for various instruments, and I'm getting those and getting them integrated into my template. I think my template has over 1,500 tracks in it, which means 1,500 instruments.
Brilliant.
And of course, there's hundreds of thousands of patches and instruments that I'm not using, or variations of the instrument I'm not using. And I had that resource, and it's always good to build on that thing. And it also adds to, energizes you for projects and stuff. You have some new toys to play with.
Definitely enjoy your time off, and thank you. So thank you for taking time to speak with me.
Thank you for talking to me. So I always like to blather on at times. So,
thank you very much. Take care.
Okay. Take care.